somebody get grandma, okay? You supposed to be baking a pie or baking some cookies for your grandchildren. You out here trying to compete with 20-year-olds and you're 70. Girl, hang it up. Nobody looks their age anymore and it's getting awkward. Ooh, I already agree. I already agree. When I tell you 13-year-olds don't look like 13-year-olds anymore, it used to be that when you were 13, you had to go through this kind of disgusting period where, you know, you're going through puberty, so you just, things are not right. You're trying to figure out how not to be funky. It's just like an awkward phase. Usually you got like pimples or just stuff like that. Now, you look at the 13-year-olds now, they look like Kylie Jenner. They look like, you know, these Instagram people. And it's scary. I'm sorry, it's scary. The kids don't look like kids anymore. And I think that is sick. What happened to having a teenage phase? It's like they go from being a kid to being a 21-year-old. And they haven't even reached the age 21. And it's the parents' fault. That's why you have to make sure you are very present in your child's life, because the internet is going to try to convince them to do foolishness, okay? I remember it was maybe like 10 years ago. Oh my God, 10 years ago, where they had the Tide Pod challenge. Y'all remember that nonsense? Y'all literally were getting influenced to eat Tide Pods. And it's only getting worse and worse and worse.
I'm 35?
Yo, what?
She's 14.
I was on live with my boyfriend and someone was like, how old's your girlfriend? And John jokingly responds 47. And the girl comments, oh, I thought she was early 30s. I am 23.
Oh my God, you guys, I remember that video. I remember that video with this girl right here. She looks like she's in her 30s. I don't know what it is, but she does look like she's in her 30s, like a good 30s, but she's not. There's something in the water, because there's no way. And I've seen those challenges that they're talking about where they'll put on this like filter or whatever, or they'll hide their face and they'll be like, oh, how old do you think I am? Or, you know, I still got it and all sorts of stuff. And you're like, bruh, you look like you're 60. You're saying you're 35? Kind of like that woman who was talking about the light skin, not even light skin, biracial, pretty privileged because she has lighter skin and lighter eyes. Whole time, she's 52. She's either 50 or 52, and she looks 80. She looks like my grandmother. So, you know, it's a whole thing. It's not even just the young people. It's even the older people that look extremely old for their age. I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is, y'all.
I am 50 years old. I've decided to get a full facelift. I'm ecstatic with my results.
There's no way. There's no way that's the same person. There's no way that's the same person. I refuse. I refuse to believe. Someone's playing. She's playing games. She's playing in our face. There's no way that's the same person. She called her daughter to come get on the video.
You're 19?
Yes.
You look older. That's not a compliment.
I just had a customer ask me if I have kids or grandkids. Do I look old enough to have grandkids to you?
It's okay to look your age. Look 35, look 40, look 50, look 62, look 101. Just look alive.
We're living in an era where guessing someone's age feels like taking a pop quiz you didn't study for. What used to be one of the most obvious visual traits about someone is now something you have to think long and hard about.
And you know, I hate when people ask that. Like, I really hate when people ask, like, how old do you think I am? Especially out in the wild, like in the real life. Not online where you can just kind of like act like you didn't see the message, but they're in your face and they ask you how old they look. And you're like, do I really want to answer that? It's so awkward because if they look old, okay, if they look decrepit and you want to be nice, but it's like you don't want to lie. You try to skate around it so you don't actually answer the question. Like you just say, oh yeah, girl, you look good. Like I hate when people ask that in the wild. Like, please don't ask me that because you know the answer that they're looking for and you don't want to lie. You don't want to be a liar, but it's so hard not to lie because it's awkward. It's very awkward. It's just like when you go to family reunions and then you have some family member that you've never seen in your life and they walk up to you. This is when you're a kid. They walk up to you and they're like, do you remember who I am? What's my name? I don't know you. I don't care if you held me when I was 2. I don't know who you are. And you're putting me on the spot to remember your name. And I'm just like, I don't know who you are. So you have to just sit there and smile like, Waiting for your parent to save you by telling them, you remember so-and-so. Oh yeah. Are you saying that so much? I've seen you 2 blue moons. I don't know you. Whose man's is this? I don't know how we're connected. I don't know how we're related. I don't know you. It's very similar to this. People ask questions that make you very uncomfortable, make you feel awkward because you know they're looking for a specific answer, and then you feel like the asshole when you answer honestly. It's a setup. Prince Laco, you said learn how to be an a-hole, Sandra. It's hard. It's so hard because it's like you never know who you're dealing with. Somebody could be crazy. You tell them the truth and then they just lose their mind. And sometimes it's like, do I even want to deal with the stress? And most time it's like, no, I don't want to deal with the stress of this. I'd rather just smile and nod and then have you go on about your merry way. Now, I'm not going to talk trash about you behind your back. I'm not going to do that. I will have thoughts. Okay, I'm gonna think things, but I'm not gonna say anything, okay? You know, I'll keep it to myself. It would just be so awkward. I would just sit there and smile when they would ask me, do you remember who I am? And I would just sit there like, waiting for someone to save me. Troy the second, you said, I appreciated my mom for always saying he doesn't know who you are. Shout out to your mom, okay? I wish more moms were like that. Protect your children from these family members that are just convinced that they should have been like their favorite family member after seeing them twice when they were an infant. Shout out to your mom. Okay, that's the type of mom I'm gonna be. I'm not gonna let these folks put my child in an awkward position because they don't know who they are. I will jump right on in and be like, I will tell them, okay, this is so-and-so. You're related to them like this. Just introduce yourself. Yeah, exactly. Just say that. Like, just say who you are and say, I remember when you were like 2. You know, it's not that hard to say that, but everyone's on an ego trip to try to see, like, oh, do you remember me? Like, you're not that special. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're not that special in my life. I seen you at 2 family reunions when I was like way younger. I don't know you. I don't know how we got on that tangent, but let's just get back to the video.
From young girls with baby teeth still growing in, wearing corsets, to older women smoothing out any signs of aging and dressing like they have weekend plans with the girls and not the grandkids. Somewhere along the way, the lines between who's becoming a woman and who's been one for decades is starting to blur. And now, womanhood doesn't come in phases, it comes with pressure. In today's video, we're diving into what happens when girlhood and womanhood stop being milestones and turn into one big identity crisis.
You know, these grandmas, somebody get grandma, okay? You supposed to be baking a pie or baking some cookies for your grandchildren. Like, and I'm not against when you get older still being fine. Once I stop breastfeeding, I'm gonna lose this extra weight. I'm going to get fine myself and I want to stay fine. I'm not saying you have to look like, you know, little granny from Courage the Cowardly Dog. I'm not saying that, but this is a state of arrested development. You out here trying to compete with 20-year-olds and you're 70. Girl, hang it up. You could still be fine. I'm not saying you got to stop being fine. Right, me ma tripping. You could still be fine, but you don't got to be like this. You could still act your age. It makes you look desperate. I don't think she understands how desperate this makes her look. Not only that, she looks like Skeletor with some fake titties. Like, it does not look good. It's not a good look. They don't want to grow up. They don't want to move on in their seasons. You need to move on into your season where you're guiding, nurturing. That's the season that you need to head on into. But a lot of these broads, they just can't let it go. So then they're behaving like what we see on the screen. And it just looks desperate and cheap. And what's crazy is that these same broads want to give advice to the younger women. No, you don't get to give advice. You're behaving the same way as these younger broads. You can't guide them anywhere. You're still trying to figure it out. You're still lost. Lexi said, unpopular opinion, I love to see this, but be tasteful. I feel you. I'm not saying you gotta be just like, you know, oh, I'm granny, you know, with the hunchback and the cane. I'm not saying that. Trust and believe. I'm still gonna be fine when I'm older, okay? But I'm gonna be age appropriate fine. Age appropriate living my best life. Not whatever this is. Troy the second, you said there's older women fine and 20-year-old fine, and you can't try to be 20-year-old fine at 80. I agree. You gotta be 80-year-old fine.
There was a time when women looked their age. And it wasn't insulting to say that. It was just a natural progression of life. Aging wasn't something to avoid, it was something you visually stepped into.
But before a girl becomes a woman, she will need to mature fully. She will need time to get used to all the changes in her body, in her feelings. It takes time to get through all the changes. It takes time.
Back in the olden days, being a young girl wasn't about status or style. It was mainly about simplicity and innocence. Girls wore blouses, long skirts that reached the ankles, maybe hairstyles with bows.
For school, choose comfortable, not too dressy clothes. Perhaps a skirt and a blouse to go with it. Yes, choose clothes that are suitable to your needs and situation.
There was no pressure to look older. Honestly, back then, if you were looking too grown, it was going to be corrected quickly.
We've gotten to a state where we just no longer have standards. It's just everything goes. And we can see that this is leading to the deterioration of society. The lack of standards are the reason why we have the problems that we have. We're not giving guidance to the young girls saying, hey, keep it together. Hey, be appropriate. It's just a free-for-all. And these same young girls are growing up with that free-for-all mentality, and they're ending up with a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, because they put themselves in situations that are not savory, put themselves in situations where they look back and they're like, why did I do that? And that's because we're no longer having that sense of shame, standards for society. We're just letting anything happen. And without those standards, without those protocol, what exactly do we expect from that? It's not going to be anything good. We have societal standards for a reason. And there's a reason why we don't want little girls out here dressing like they're ready for the strip club. There's a reason why. Unfortunately, through sexual revolution, through feminism, we've lost the plot. We've seen it as, well, you're just trying to control me. It doesn't even make sense. If we're saying that men wanting us to be more modest in how we dress is them trying to control us, but then we also in the same breath are saying that men want free sex and they just want to view us as sexual objects, then wouldn't it be in their interest for us to have the sexual revolution, not for us to be more modest? You can't blame men for this. If men are saying that they want something more modest and you're saying, well, no, I just want to, walk outside with all my everything out. Understand what you're doing. You're basically giving into that idea of being a sexual object. Well, I'm objectifying myself, not you. I can sexually objectify myself. You can't sexually objectify me. How dare you objectify me even though I walk out looking like a sex object? Let's be so effing for real here. You can't have it both ways. We need to understand that we have to have societal standards. We have to have shame within society so that keeps everybody in line. It keeps everybody understanding that they need to show up in the world a certain way and not just be out here with their ass and titties out.
Sometimes I like to shake you girls when you worry so much about being pretty or not being pretty, as though prettiness were a woman's only attraction.
Now, looking back at the early 2000s, which is very nostalgic to me because that's the era that I grew up in, our mamas had us in jelly sandals, skirts, capri pants, those knitted ponchos.
Oh my God. When I was a little girl, like when I was in that tween era, y'all, I loved these. I thought they were so cute. I remember going to like JCPenney to try to get one. What happened to dressing like a kid? I loved the little tassels and all of that. I wanted a pair of these, like the gaucho pants. It was lit being a kid. It was like kids had their own lane and it was fine. Instead of going to Sephora, they were going to Claire's and getting the little costume jewelry, wearing clothes that were meant for kids. But now if you go to the teen section of like a JCPenney, it looks damn near the same as going to like any of these like rainbow stores where they like sell stripper clothes. It's basically the same thing. There's no difference. There's no variation. Let the kids be kids. Stop trying to have the kids be older than they are. But see, I think this is part of a bigger issue. I think they really want to push for PDF files. That's why they're making such a big effort with this whole transgenderism thing with kids to say, well, they're old enough to know. They know what they want. They know what they like. They're using that same sentiment, these kids knowing what they want and what they like, to now try to reel in and try to decriminalize PDF files. I think that's what it really is. And it goes hand in hand with this. You take away this child era, right? This childlike season that all kids should go through, specifically if we're talking about little girls, that little girls should go through, where they're wearing stuff like this, where they're, wearing the clothes like this. You get rid of that. You have them start dressing like 20-year-olds. And then you also push forth that idea that these kids know what they want by 13. Well, if a kid knows what they want, then if they want to date a 25-year-old, they can. That's the type of logic that they want us to adopt. And they're slowly but surely propagandizing us into being okay with that. And that's the part that's disgusting. As much as everyone's getting out here and acting like they're so offended by the Epstein list, a lot of them are pushing forth ideas and propaganda that are literally in hand with the same type of nonsense of sexualizing children, of harming children. And I'm gonna need us to not buy into the propaganda. Just like some of you said, they're trying to push this idea of maps. They're trying to rebrand. Like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to change the wording around it. You got to be very careful about words. Words have meaning, and they want to change the marketing around it so that they can usher it in and people won't have the same visceral reaction that they have to PDF files. Whenever you hear the word PDF file, it gives you a gut-wrenching response, and it's supposed to do that. But they want to rebrand it under maps because we don't have that long association with that term. It's new. So you're not getting that same visceral reaction to it. And that's what they want. They want us to normalize it. They want us to see it as, like you said, part of the LGBTQ. It is the type of behavior that should have you put down. I don't believe in redeeming everybody. I don't think everybody can be redeemed. I do think some people can, but PDF files, no. There's no redemption there. Pew pew. I agree. Little girls need to go through this phase of dressing like this, dressing like a child. The fact that you have kids out here dressing like they are ready for the club is a problem.
Had us in jelly sandals, skirts, capri pants, those knitted poncho. Justice, you just had to be there.
Justice was specifically advertised as being just for girls. Varying shades of neon were not uncommon to see on a Justice floor, and at least half of just the neon clothes were usually covered in some kind of sequins or glitter.
From the barrettes to the silly bands or animal bracelets, whatever you called them growing up, there was an innocence in how we looked, how we moved, how the world seen us. We looked like girls that had a bedtime. Let's put it that way. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that kids today have to go back to puffed sleeves and knee socks. I just want to show you what girlhood looked like when it wasn't rushed. And just like how you could tell who the little girls were, you could also tell who the grown women were. From the way they dressed to the way they carried themselves, there was a very clear line between girlhood and womanhood.
As it should be. We are supposed to go through different seasons in life. The fact that those lines are blurring is a problem. If you just skip phases, that's going to lead to a lot of problems. And a lot of women are going to be lost. They're going to be lost because they didn't take the time to really figure out who they are when they were going through that teen era. Sexy as a 40-year-old and sexy as a 21-year-old is going to be different. And that's okay. It's okay to get older. It's okay to act your age.
Being aware, perhaps, that she was doing it. She may be mother or movie queen, debutante or college teen, housewife or working girl. But whatever her title, she is the world's most varied, puzzling, and exciting creature, the American woman in the 20th century.
Whether it was the 1920s, 50s, or the early 2000s, grown women had a look. They weren't trying to relive their 20s or their younger years. They were actually stepping into womanhood on purpose, and they wanted everyone to know. Let's just put it this way, you knew who was paying the bills and who was still asking for permission to go play outside. But that telltale didn't last forever. And before we knew it, that clear separation between girl and woman wasn't so clear anymore.
Usually I look at a woman and can tell if they're over or under 21 or 25. But after today, yeah, I'm asking all of them their age. I seen this girl today while I was working. She looked like around 25-ish to 28-ish. The way she was speaking to me was kind of youngish. So I just asked her, how old you are? She's like, oh, I'm 19.
And see, that's a very important part. I'm glad that he brought that up. I would hate to be a man out here. You want to date somebody that's your age or, slightly older or slightly younger, but nothing crazy. You're having to sift through people and you're looking at somebody and you think, wow, this person looks nice. And then you've come to find out they're way younger, like inappropriately young. That has to be difficult. That's why you have to be extra diligent. You got to make sure that you're finding out exactly how old these people are. Your 15-year-old should not look like she's 25 because that's going to put her in situations that are not age appropriate. And that's not to say that you can't look like a kid and still have creepers creeping, but let's not make it even worse. These times are scary. I'm gonna be honest. These are scary times.
That visual timeline that used to guide society back in the day, yeah, it disappeared. And what replaced it is this weird middle ground where everyone's trying to look like they're in that 20-something age bracket, even if they're 13 or 53.
Girl, hang it up. Girl, hang it up. She thinks she's in the Clueless movie.
And yes, it's only 8th grade prom and she's only 13, but literally it's go big or go home, like I said.
Somewhere along the way.
No. Why is your daughter dressed like that for 8th grade? You know how old someone is in 8th grade? I'm convinced some of these moms are just pimping out their daughters. Because it's not even just like that's the daughter. The mom paid for that. The mom signed off on that, co-signed it. And see, the thing is, these broads that have this arrested development, they try to live vicariously through their daughters. So they're like, I wish I could have dressed like this when I was in 8th grade, so I'm gonna let my daughter do it. Ew. Where is that mother instinct to want to protect your child? And not only that, the school should have turned her away. My middle school would have said, turn that around, put something else on, and try again. They would not have let me in to the 8th grade dance dressed like that. These girls are being raised by these broads that haven't grown up themselves, that have this animosity towards parenting because they grew up with rules and regulations. So now they're gonna raise their kids with no rules, no regulations, and then they wonder why their kids are behaving like little demons. Right, Rome King, mama trying to be big sis. And it's like, no, you have to be a mother. You have to be the parent. There has to be an adult in the room.
Girlhood started skipping some steps. That age of awkward phases, braces, and childhood innocence is starting to be replaced with makeup tutorials or get ready with me's, crop tops.
My high school would have kicked you out. Okay, there's no way you're showing up in a crop top to my high school. They would have said nope, and they would have gave you a gym shirt to put on. What is going on with these schools either? Like, why are the schools allowing this? And then we wonder why we keep seeing all these cases of the kids screwing the teachers. Everyone is doing such a disservice to the kids by not having standards. It's like everyone stopped caring. It's just like, how can we just get through the day without having any type of altercation of any kind? We'll just let the kids dress how they want. That's why you had that teacher bae showing up to school like she's dressed for a date, and the school hasn't fired her because there's no standards. A teacher could not at my high school or middle school or elementary school. They would have been fired. They would have been turned away at the door. We would have had substitute, and then they would have found us another teacher. But now we just don't care. We have no standards because everyone pushes this, well, you shouldn't judge. This is that you shouldn't judge propaganda manifesting. Oh, well, you shouldn't judge. I am judging, and we need to judge more. There has to be a time frame where you could just have those rules set for the kids so they're not growing up too fast. There's a time and a place, okay? And that time and place is not in high school or middle school. And it doesn't mean that they can't dress nice. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you can't dress nice, right? Like, there has to be some type of standard so that you can tell the difference between a high school student and a 30-year-old woman who's still out there trying to find a husband. We need to be able to tell the difference, okay?
It's a tale as old as time that young girls have always wanted to act more mature than their age. They've always wanted to be seen as adults. That's nothing new. But what we're seeing now that we haven't seen before is that they're actually succeeding. Think of magazines like J14 back in the day. When these girls would try and look more mature, they would wear the makeup and they would do the hair and they would wear the clothes that they thought adult women were wearing and looking like. But honestly, it looked like child's play of being older. But more and more, we're seeing these girls successfully enter these spaces of looking like grown women.
The reason why they're able to do that is because of all these tutorials. All of these tutorials showing little girls how to do their makeup. You know, it's not even that it's geared towards little girls, because a lot of that content is geared toward the younger women grown younger women, these little girls have access to it too. So they're able to see how these grown women are doing their makeup, how these grown women are doing their hair, okay, how these grown women are dressing. And then that's why they're able to do it successfully now, as opposed to looking at a picture of somebody grown and then trying to do it yourself without knowing how to even achieve the look. Because they have tutorials now, they're able to succeed at looking much older than they are.